we talked about strategy and we talked about the context, right? The destination plus the ICP, the ideal customer profile. Now let's get granular as to what exactly is our plan. And the way we attack this is basically looking at the business as a process, or you can think of it as a funnel, but it extends throughout the entire touch point of the business with the client. So we start with how did they even hear about us? So how do we even start to engage with clients? How did they hear about us? How would we build trust with them, which is the consideration set? So in order for someone to buy from you, they need to trust you. How do you do this? Uh, how would we turn them into paying clients? So how do we convert them? How would we deliver a wow service or product? That's the delivery. You can think about the onboarding or the product itself. And the last one, which is a lot of time people miss, it's a huge mistake because it's so much money there, is how would we make sure they keep coming back or the retention? So we already provide them with a wow experience. How do we make sure they actually come back? And I kind of want to unpack each one of them very quickly. And again, you can be as granular or high level as you would like, as long as it's clear for whoever reads this inside your company of what exactly is the plan. So let's kind of unpack this. Top of funnel, which is awareness. How did they hear about us? So we can think about like, what are the initiatives that we're going to do to make sure that we even get on people's radar? It can be our outreach strategy. That can be our advertisement. That can be our social media, whatever that is. And what should be the next step? So how do we push them from just learning that we exist into actually engaging with us so we can start building trust? So that's the first part. Second part is to build the trust, right? The consideration. So they know that we exist, but how do we actually build trust and demonstrate that we know what we're doing? So we can again think about this like is what exactly is the initiative? What does that look like? It can be an initiative, it can be a plan, it can be an articulation, it can be bullet points. It doesn't really matter how you format this, as long as it's clear of how are you taking them from just knowing that you exist into thinking that, oh, they have value to provide. Them as a company, we have value to provide, and we should consider them as an alternative or a solution. The third part, which is this is mid funnel. Next part is bottom funnel, which is we got them in the door, we got them to engage with us. How do we make them into paying clients? So how do we convert them? That's really like sales. And you can think about like what's the initiative, but beside this, a really question that I really love is how do we make this a no-brainer to the customer? So think about like removing friction. How do I create? Alex Hermosi calls it a grand slam offer, but it can be like a too good to refuse offer. How do I remove friction? How do I help them push them in the right direction uh, as towards this? You can again, you can add questions as long as it's providing value and not creating complexity. So we got them. We top of funnel. We made sure that they know that we exist. We, in the consideration mid funnel, we built some trust, and then we converted them and we convinced them to pay us. That's a conversion. Great. That's where really the fun just begins. That's where most funnels end. That's where most people stop focusing and they forget to focus on the delivery and the retention. So let's talk about this really quickly. Delivery is like the user experience. So once they said yes, what happens? What's the process? What's the user journey? How are we making this an amazing experience to the customer? What initiatives do we do? And you can do it in multiple different ways. You can write bullet points. You can add a user journey map. Um, with our clients, we do a user journey mapping. We kind of break down each step of the process. But you can do it however you want, as long as it's clear of how are you delivering a wow experience. That's the delivery. And the last part, as I mentioned, that most people really forget, and there's so much money there, is how do we make them come back? So we found them. Look at how much we work. We found them. We convinced them to trust us. We convinced them to pay us. We delivered a wow experience. Okay, what are we doing to make sure they buy again? What does that look like? How do we retain them? How do we turn them into brand loyalists? How do we make sure that we extract what we call lifetime value? How do we stretch the relationship with them? Not artificially, as long as we provide value, but how do we make sure that we keep it keep engaging them on the long term. So that's the funnel and that's the process. So we had the context, which is where are we going and who do we serve? And then we built the whole process, which is basically these 6 questions, 5 questions that are designed to kind of break down the steps and make sure we have a plan, at least a rough plan for each one of those steps. So let's look at what it looks like at Fractional Partners and as an example for this. Open hours. So look at hours. How do they hear about us? Specifically with us, what we do is have unique outreach to selected ICPs. So we actively find people that fit our demographic and we reach out to them, or this community. So if you're here, it's because it's part of our initiative to be on your radar. So we're building in public. We're going to have a podcast and we're going to share the knowledge with the community via social media. We share the knowledge and that's how we get people into our orbit. That's our awareness activity. And the next step or the call to action for this step is to have a 15-minute intro call so we can get to know you and kind of start building the relationship. That's how we get you into the orbit. How do we build trust? How do we build trust with you? So we do the 15-minute conversation. And usually what happens is either if it's a cold lead, we're not sure we can help, we push them into the community, which this is a part of, or a workshop where we can demonstrate value, when we can engage, we're not selling anything. It's really an opportunity to kind of build trust and provide value. And if they are a hot lead and they really fit the demographic and we think we can really help them immediately, we invite them to a clarity session, which is a 60-minute conversation. It's one-on-one, and we talk about specifically their business. So different offers for different stages or different type of clients, but the idea is the same. We want to build trust. We're not selling. It's not the idea in the consideration. We're here to demonstrate that we now know what we're doing and that we're trustworthy and you should trust us and we can deliver what we say we can do. So that's the consideration. Conversion. So what would turn them into paying clients? What exactly is a service or a product? So what we have is we have an optimization as a go-to-market product. So basically what we have is a program where we come into business and we basically optimize the business. We identify the clarity gaps and we become their fractional partners and we help them identify where the gaps are and then implement the solutions. So that's what we do. And that's how we build trust. We usually, I wrote here what the pain point we're trying to solve with a specific offer. And what makes this a no-brainer. So we want to remove friction. So if we got all that, we got someone to this stage, I want to make sure they convert. In order for them to convert, I need to make this a no-brainer to them. That's what we're trying to solve here. So specifically with us, we have 100% refund if they're not satisfied, no long-term obligation, and we don't talk about equity or revenue share until the project is done and we provided value. So you can choose your own, but the idea here is to get into the customer's mind and ask ourselves, how can we remove friction and make this too good to miss offer? That's the conversion. So let's say they said yes, and they said, let's start a project. How do we make this a wow experience? What we have here is basically our framework or our user journey. What does that look like? So if we decided to do a project together, how are we making this an amazing experience? And what we did is basically did a user journey mapping and we broke every step of the process and we made sure that we can provide value and create an amazing seamless experience. And the last part of it is retention. So we finished a project with someone, with a company. How do we make them in our orbit? We're not here to sell engagement, but we want to make sure that they're still us because there's still value that we are able to generate. In us specifically, what we chose is we offer quarterly check-ins to measure their progress because we want to see the effectiveness of what we're doing here long-term. A referral program with incentives for people that really enjoyed what we're doing. Keep them in the Partners Forum, which is a small group of past clients, invite them to share in public. So all these activities are really designed to make sure that we keep engaging with them even after the service or product was already done and delivered. That's the idea behind the plan. It's really simple but not easy. The idea here is to take a complex process and break it down into bite-sized chunks, steps. I need to find them. I need to build trust. I need to convert them. I need to deliver an amazing experience. And then I need to make sure they come back or they spread the word about what we're doing. And if you just break it down, imagine the power of having this in your business and every employee in your business reading this and aligning on this. This becomes a superpower. Everybody has the same idea as to how value is being generated and how things are done within the company. That magic happens. So this is the plan. In the next session, we're going to talk about how do we make sure that plan actually gets executed and repeatedly. So this is a nice to have. A plan without like, execution is just like it's a blueprint. It's not a building. It's nothing. We like to talk about what it looks like when it's implemented.